Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Trevor Ohlsen Show, episode number 68. Episode number 68 on Saturday, June, is it the 12th? Let's figure. Yes, June 12th, 2021. I am your host for the day. What am I doing? That's the button. For the day, the afternoon, the evening. I probably should do these things before I click record, but I don't. I hit the wrong button. I hit the solo button, and I meant to hit the low latency button. We won't get into the technicalities of recording. Trevor Ohlsen, good to be here. What's going on? I want to talk to you about an idea that I think that I recently heard from a podcast between Russell Brand and this entertainer named Blindboy, who I've only ever seen him with Russell Brand, but he did, I guess he has his own podcast. He has, I guess he's a rapper, he's a comedian, he does a lot, which is, he's also a writer, short stories, which is really quite cool, because as a creative person, I do, creatively, I write songs, I record music, I do this podcast, I write a newsletter, so I understand the importance of having your hands in multiple pots, so to speak, creatively, as something that just needs to happen for your own psychological well-being as a creative person. And if you're interested in watching this podcast, just type in Russell Brand and Blindboy, and it should come up. And I couldn't find the full podcast on YouTube. I could only find clips, but the full podcast is available for free on Russell Brand's podcast on Spotify. I think it's either 57 or 58, something like that. So you have to scroll back because Russell's, I think he's close to almost 200 episodes now. Also something that we're at almost 60. We're almost at a funny number of episodes, 69, but we're at 68. 68 episodes. Pretty neat. But this idea has it's definitely impacted me, and it was the first time I ever heard it articulated. And the idea is, and the quote, which I memorized, is, "No aspect of your behavior can define your value as a person." Now, I didn't understand that at first until he dove further into it, but this is something that I've been doing for a long time, and I knew I was doing it, but I didn't know how to phrase it, and so not knowing how to phrase it, not having the language necessarily to articulate it in my own mind, I had a hard time. How am I supposed to mitigate a negative behavior when I don't even really understand the behavior itself? So, but this idea of no aspect of your behavior can define your value as a person really stood out to me. And so my story, my experience with this type of thing is, a while ago, a few years ago now, I posted the video 10 Signs You're from the UP, and it got 100,000 views in a day, and it went on to get like almost 400,000 views. And that really, really, really made me feel good. And prior to that, I had videos hit in the, a few thousand, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, 16,000. So I had been reaching some people, but then this video hit 300,000, and then almost 400,000. And I was like, whoa. And so I was really excited to release my next video after that, because I was like, oh, I've got him now. And so I released the next video, and, comparatively speaking to the 400,000 views one, it, total failure, if you're comparing. The video on itself was good, but in and of itself was good, but it didn't even kind of compare view-wise. And so that really, really kind of disheartened me. And then, unfortunately, I allowed myself to just continue to do that. And I kept posting videos, and none of them did as well as the 400,000 views one. And I got really discouraged, really disheartened, and then I basically stopped making videos. So, there you go. That's a unfortunate thing that I did that. I wish I would have had somebody be like, hey, don't, if this, but all in due timing, right? So, but I also, along the way, I started not only comparing, I not only was I comparing my videos to this one video, but I also, even with Instagram and Facebook, especially Facebook and Twitter and everything, and YouTube, if a video or if a post, if something I put up didn't do well to my standards, I felt really bad about myself. And I didn't really, and I kind of knew that, but I was articulating it as, oh, I'm like, I've got a love-hate relationship with social media, which I kind of do. But I'm going to lose my train of thought here. We're on to something good, folks. We're on to something. Listen, the man's got something to say. I started getting discouraged, and not only that, but I started feeling bad about myself. That's where I was. Feeling bad about myself, like as a person. And this was a perfect example of I was allowing this aspect of my behavior, e.g., posting content on social media, to define my value as a person. I was allowing creative endeavors, I was allowing the outcome of external creative endeavors to define my value as a person. And that is an inaccurate view of not only myself, but of life in general, but especially of all of us as people. And I've known this, but as a person, I have, and you have, intrinsic value. Intrinsic meaning essential, meaning I am no better than anybody else, and nobody else is better than me. Fundamentally, at the core of all of us, we all are equal. One nation under God, equal. That's truly what we are as people, and that's an amazing, amazing idea. And that is, I think, an accurate perspective of how to view people. And not only that, but more important, yes, viewing others, especially viewing others, but especially how you view yourself, because you really have to be careful if you don't get that raise at work and you feel bad about yourself. You have to remember that you have intrinsic value, and that an increase in income does not define your value as a person. Or you might have a little tiny apartment that you're kind of embarrassed by, but that doesn't define your value as a person. You might have a really crappy, beat up old car that, again, you're embarrassed about and you don't want to bring around, and it's always breaking apart and falling down, and maybe people are giving you shit for it, but that car doesn't define your value as a person. You have intrinsic value, you have intrinsic worth, and that's something that nobody can take away from you, and that's something that you can't take away from anybody else. So he said that, and it really, really connected. It really resonated with me. It really connected with me because I had been doing that for so long. And I think a lot of people do that with regards to social media, because it's such a new thing, and we're, as a species, really trying to figure it out, and we're obsessed with it and addicted to it. And it's something we need to tread very carefully upon, and we need to consciously and actively pay attention to how we are using the technology. And so I just wanted to share that idea with you. I thought it was really brilliant and brilliantly articulated, and it really just connected with me. And another aspect that he said was, Blindboy, when he releases a podcast, a short story, a song, whatever it may be, a video, he has to be very cautious of how much he beats himself up due to the outcomes of those creative endeavors. And so if a podcast flops and you beat yourself up on that, that isn't very helpful. It's not very useful. It's natural to do that, but you need to be cautious of that, because if you you can get to a point where you beat yourself up too much. And, we all know people who are too hard on themselves. There's something to be said for being your own worst critic. And I think that's very useful, because, if you're striving for human excellence, if you're striving to be great at something, you're going to have to be critical of yourself in order to improve. You're going to have to look at your flaws. You're going to have to look at where it is you're fallible. You're going to need to be able to criticize yourself to a healthy degree in order to move forward. But if you criticize yourself so much and you beat yourself up so much, it's like you're running down a path, and a healthy dose of criticism would be what, and you don't think you can keep going. You're on this dirt path. It's hot. You're dehydrated. Your feet are aching, and you've got like 5 miles left, and you're like, oh God, I don't know if I can do this. And then a healthy dose of criticism would be like, oh, come on, and anyone can do 5 miles. Go do 5. Keep going. What are you talking about? Come on, like that's a healthy dose of, you're criticizing yourself. Like, come on, dude. Quit being a bitch. I think that's a healthy dose if it's not too much. But for example, a too harsh version of self-criticism might be, you're at that same position and you get there and you're like, man, what the fuck is wrong with you? You fucking loser. You're worthless. You have no value. You have no worth. Hence the term worthless. Why don't you just not be around anymore? And people can get to that place, as we all know. And so you have to be very, very cautious of how self-critical you are and how much you beat yourself up with regards to the outcomes of anything external. And in my case, I particularly have to focus on my creative endeavors. So I've been implementing a few things to try to break some patterns, some bad patterns. One thing I realized about myself was that like every day, I'm continuing to get a lot out of that book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. I know I'm bringing up a bunch, but I'm reading it for the third time, and each time I'm hearing new things that really are like connecting with me. And one area that I became a bit more self-aware in was how and why and what type of patterns am I acting out that would show that I am seeking people's approval. And I realized that one of the first things I do in the morning when I go out, once I go outside, I get up at 7:30, I have coffee, I go sit outside, and I listen to a book. But in the meantime, I've been finding myself as of late, and I've been doing this for a long time. Even it might be in the middle of the book, it might be right in the beginning, it might be at the end, but I check all my social medias. So I check my Instagram for likes. I check my YouTube page for views. I check my Spotify page for listens. Like, this was sort of a way that I was almost unconsciously seeking approval as a means of feeling good about myself. Again, with regards to that is an example of an external outcome, and I'm using that outcome to define myself as a person. And that, again, that's just a poor pattern. That's a poor habit. It isn't helpful. It's not useful to look at metrics to define who you are. So I've been trying to break that pattern and almost not look at it at all, numbers-wise, and just post everything that I'm posting, do everything that I'm doing, continue to be creative, but let go of the outcome and get out of your own way. And I think that can be really applied in many, many areas of your life. If letting go of the outcome, doing your absolute best, giving it everything you've got, and doing it for the right reasons, whatever it may be. If I'm making an album, I shouldn't be focused on the external outcome of that album. Like, man, I hope I get 1 million plays. It's just an arbitrary random number. What does that have to do with anything, So instead, it should be something more important, like, may this album go on to connect with people on a deep and meaningful level, that it would mean something to them, like music has meant to me. Something like that. It could be better articulated, but something deeper than just metrics and numbers and plays and money. Something more important than that. And I think what we're all searching for and connecting for, I know I am, is just connection with people, and connection with each other. And when you focus on connecting with people, and then not only that, but you do connect with people, it feels right. It feels right, in your gut when you're in a meaningful conversation and you're connecting with someone, and not even like a say a person that you have a sexual agenda for or with or whatever, but it could be anyone, just like a buddy, and like you're just really vibing and it feels right, and you're connected in that moment. You're looking at each other face to face, human to human, in that moment with one another, and that's what we want. We want connection with each other, and it's always been important, and it always will be important, and we have to consciously practice connecting with one another as technology further advances and most people continue to get sucked into social media too much, or just into their phones too much, and so they're not connecting with people. Like, I was out last night at Soul Blue, the bar in town. Shout out to Soul Blue. And there was this, cute girl there sitting at the table with her friend, and I was interested in going up and talking to him and sitting down, but they just sat there for an hour. More than an hour. Just sat there on their phones. Like, not talking to each other. And yeah, like, she was really cute, but I don't know, it doesn't seem like she has much depth. She's clearly not showing it here and now, and she's not really putting herself out there. And maybe I should have just gone up and introduced myself, but she was sitting at a table. I definitely should have, probably. But, she was just on her phone. And I don't know, that's just annoying. It's kind of a rule for me when I go out that I don't do 100%, but I'm pretty damn good at. When I'm out, I am not on my phone. Like, I'm there with whoever it is that I'm there with, and that's it. I'm not on my phone. Like, it's the worst when you're having a conversation with somebody and they pull out their phone and they just start flicking through it. Just start scrolling through Instagram. It's like, I always call them out too. Like, oh, am I not interesting enough for you? And then they go, oh shit, I'm on my phone. Like, God, so many of the patterns that we engage in are like unconscious. Like, we don't even notice that we're doing them. So becoming aware of the patterns we do is also an important lesson, and something worth your time. And I think one way of gaining a more in-depth understanding of the patterns that you are engaged in on a daily or a weekly basis is writing down kind of everything you do. What did you do today? Like, in detail. Like, write it down in detail and be paying attention. So now you're going to be writing about your day. So you have to, since you're going to be writing about your day, you got to pay attention. And then do that for like 2 weeks. Or, I've heard guys say, just like watch yourself for 2 weeks. That's going to probably be more complicated, I would think. Oh, just really observe yourself for 2 weeks. It's like, I can 2 weeks. 2 weeks of just observing myself like I'm a wild animal. Like, it'd be hard to do. So I think writing it down would be better. But there's a lot of value. It's not like a salesman. There's a lot of value here, sir. Ma'am, don't miss out here. There's a lot of value. There's an essence here. There's a lot of value to understanding and knowing the habits and patterns that you're engaged in. Because then if they're poor, you can start to mitigate them. And if they're good, you can start to exemplify, bring out, do more of. You can start to do more of them. Or you can, mitigate the bad ones and add more good ones, good habits, good patterns. Like, I'm in a pattern of, for the last almost 8 years, I'm in a pattern of, all right, I'm going to the gym, pretty much every day. The first 5 years was 5 to 7 days a week. The last 3 have been anywhere from like 3 to 5. So I cut back intentionally, and actually that allowed me to put on more muscle. But that's my body type. Like, I'm lean, and so I needed more rest. I need more rest, more calories. Yeah. So, but that's a pattern. It's not even conscious anymore. It's just 3 o'clock rolls around and I just go. And it's not even like, oh, I gotta force myself to go. It's like, or I better start getting ready. It's like, no, everything's just ready, and I'm just go, because it's so built into my day that there's no thought, there's no effort, and you just go and do it. It's like as a musician playing songs, I'm doing a gig, and I do like 3 hour set, and I never look at any sheet music or anything, and I play 40 songs. And I've had so many people be like, how do you think of all these things that you're doing, and how do you memorize all these songs? Like, what are you thinking about when you're on stage? And it's like, I'm truly not thinking of anything. If I'm doing it right, I'm trying to be in the moment and delivering the song and connecting with the audience. But I've done the songs so many times that my fingers are just doing the chords. Lyrics, I'm not thinking about lyrics. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm basically doing it almost non-consciously as well, which is actually how patterns work. So when you start something difficult, so say you start learning guitar and you start like the G chord and the D chord, C and the E minor, and you're really just a beginner, so the chords feel strange, it feels alien and foreign to your fingers, and your fingertips are hurting and in pain, and it's requiring a lot of brain power to make those chords work. Well, you do that even after a week. By the end of the week, you're going to be doing it so naturally that you're not even going to be thinking about it. And I know they've done brain scans where, when you start learning something new, your brain is, kind of almost in like overdrive. It's really being worked. It's really trying to figure out whatever task it is that you're trying to do. And then once it does figure it out, it doesn't require nearly as much power, let's say, as it did when it was trying to learn the task at hand. And so, your brain's working this much the first time, and then by the 1,000th time, it's working like this much, and you're doing it way better and without thought. So that's what I'm doing when I'm on stage, like playing shows. I'm like not even thinking, unless it's like a new song, and I'm not 100% comfortable with it yet. Then there'll be a little more thought, but I mean, it's not like I'm going out there completely blind whenever I'm doing shows, but yeah. That was good stuff. Felt like that was a nice little rant. That was like a 22-minute rant. Yes. Oh, guys, I should share too. I'm not gonna tell you where. I'm not gonna tell you where I was. But I was fishing last night. I've really been taking advantage of the summer and the weekends, and I've been getting out a lot. I think I'm just gonna leave my kayak on my vehicle the whole summer. Like it's up on my vehicle. I think I might just leave it there instead of taking it on and off each time. It's kind of tricky with my vehicle. It's not tricky, but I have to pick it up by myself, put it up, and then strap it down with 2 straps. It takes a few minutes. It's really not a big deal, but might as well just leave it on if it's not really affecting gas or anything like that. If I'm doing it like once a week. And I've got my fishing poles in my car, and a life jacket. Like I've got everything I need in my car ready to go. So I was out at somewhere yesterday, and I saw a couple big bass. In the beginning, wasn't getting anything, and then towards the second half of this place, things started to get interesting, and I started catching some bass. I started missing some bass. Long story short, I caught 6 largemouth. I missed 6. 5 of the largemouth I caught were decent. Nothing crazy. Some were actually kind of small. But I caught a really nice one. I caught an 18-inch largemouth that was a few pounds. Like it was a nice bass. Just big, fat, and beautiful. Big, fat, and beautiful. Sound like people. It doesn't matter that she's obese. She's big and fat and beautiful. I know. It's fine. I'm thinking of her health. I want her to feel good about her feelings instead. But it doesn't matter. She's probably gonna die in her 40s. But I want her to feel good now. No. She should lose weight. Don't say that. So, big, fat, beautiful bass, and caught it. Got some pictures. some videos, thanked the Lord for it. I was actually in the video that I took of it. Excuse me. I hear myself talking in the background. I'm like, thank you, God. Thank you. I almost didn't even realize I was doing it. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment, I thought. But right after that, you guys, now I described the first couple bass that I saw as monsters, like some big monster bass. I saw a freak bass. I mean a freak bass. Huge. And this place is known for large bass. And I've had a few fishing moments where I've seen some really big muskie, where I've seen some really big fish that really gets my heart going. I'm like, holy shit. And yesterday was one of those moments, just a monster, a freak bass. And it was right in front of me. And its back tail was doing this. The only reason I spotted it was right in front of me. It was up on the surface, and its back tail was coming out of the water. So here's the surface, and it's just, here's, like, that's how big this fucking fish's tail was. Like, it was out of the water, it was on top, and I was like, holy shit, what is that? And I casted at top water above it, like near it, and tried to get it, and it moved, and I got to see the whole body of it, and I was like, oh my God. It really was something. It really, really was a huge fish. Oh, I can only imagine catching a fish like that. So I might go back to this place again tonight and just keep rocking and rolling there, because it was very good. What time is it? It's like 4:00 here, so maybe if I get out at like 6 and hang out, do it for like 3 hours. I don't know. I just want to get out. I gotta take advantage of the weather. It just can't pass it up. We get like 12, 14 weeks of nice weather here, and especially I'm able to get out during the week a bit as well, but I'm typically working, doing music or at the gym. Like, I've got my responsibilities. So, but come the weekend, I allow myself a bit more relaxation, just so I can continue to have hopefully a somewhat balanced lifestyle of, okay, yes, I'm working hard and I'm accomplishing a lot in my own eyes, by my own standards, but and I'm socializing, and I'm getting out and seeing friends, and I'm exploring, and I'm traveling, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. So, that's important. I really have a tendency to really get locked in on things, and then I'm just locked in, and I get really almost kind of rigid. So I have to remain loose a little bit and allow myself to go enjoy myself from time to time. Otherwise, and when you're out on the water as well, and it's calm, and the sun is setting, and you're catching fish, and there's birds flying above. Oh, and I saw a huge snapping turtle, at this place as well. When you're seeing and the water was so clear, and there was just fish all over. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was like it's almost like you're transported into another world, especially when you're looking down into the water and you're seeing hundreds of fish, and like, wow, this is where these fish live. This is their universe. This is their world. And it was just a great time. It was fun. So I think I'm going to get back out there and take advantage of the summer that we have. All right, friends. Well, look at that. We're at the end of the old show, the old podcast. Start smoking weed on the show. I could do that. I could even do that legally. No, I'm not smoking weed. I will say, though, the dispensary in town was packed today. Looks like a McDonald's drive-thru. People toke up on the weekends, baby. That's for sure, especially during the summertime. So, all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like to support it directly, and you'd like to get more. Oh wait, this is a fucking Patreon episode. That's right. I might share this one publicly, just to kind of get the word out on Patreon, and and just try to get the word out there. But if I do decide that this goes public, which I think I will, and you'd like to have access to more of these shows, you can go to patreon.com/Trevor Ohlsen, and you can sign up there and gain access to all sorts of cool shit. All right. Have a good rest of your day. Keep doing your thing. Keep moving forward. Keep working hard. And I will see all of you guys on Wednesday.